Let's not beat around the bush here. You saw how this item can give you on-demand crits and thought your gibus ass could pub stomp with it, only to end up getting dominated by half the server instead. And now you're looking up guides online to see where you're going wrong. Well, you came to the right place. How yinz doing? I'm Ian, and this is my TF2 Killstreak series, where we look at the best and worst TF2 has to offer and show you how to get a killstreak with it, because everything's a bad idea until it works. Today we will have a look at the Crita-A-Cola, so without any further ado, let's get into it. The Crita-A-Cola is a secondary for the Scout that gives you on-demand mini-crits at the expense of marking you for death for 8 seconds after you attack with said mini-crits. This means if you drink the carbonated liquid and then don't use the crits because you used it at the wrong time, you won't face any penalty beyond having to shamefully wait for your secondary to slowly recharge in the corner of your screen. Please bear in mind that this item gives you mini-crits, not full crits, meaning you're not going to do the same DPS as you would with a Crita-A-Cola medic pocketing you, and you'd certainly not be as durable as if you were. Speaking of the Crita-A-Cola, this item can be crafted using a Crita-A-Cola and the Bonk Atomic Punch in the crafting menu. However, like always, I recommend trading or waiting for a random drop if you really want this item. When using this weapon, please bear in mind that you'll freeze in place and do a drinking animation before you end up actually getting the mini-crits. If you've used the Bonk Atomic Punch before, you're already familiar with this song and dance, but for those of you who aren't, I will reiterate. Since you effectively have to do a taunt animation before the mini-crits take effect, you're going to want to sit around a corner or somewhere relatively safe but close to the fray in order to actually get full use out of this. After all, if you take a drink too close to the front lines, you'll get picked off by someone while you're doing the taunt animation, but if you take a drink too far away from the front lines, the crits will wear off before you can kill anyone with them. When it comes to deciding when and where to take a drink from your Crita-A-Cola, I recommend following the dispenser rule. The dispenser rule, for those unfamiliar with the term I just made up while recording this, is if building a dispenser would be beneficial to your team here, it's probably safe to drink your Crita-A-Cola here as well. After all, engineers aren't going to be building dispensers in places where you can snipe them from across the map, so it's safe to assume that sitting perfectly still drinking soda in those areas is also a bad idea. When it comes to deciding your primary when using the Crita-A-Cola, the stock scattergun is never a bad option. After all, the larger clip size means that there's less reliance on you landing every single shot with perfect accuracy. The Force of Nature is also a viable option, since a point-blank meat shot will actually do the same damage as a sniper's quickscope headshot if it's been boosted with the Crita-A-Cola. Meaning if you're able to consistently find players alone with no backup, you can actually get quite an impressive killstreak with this combo. However, if being marked for death after your first shot with the mini-crit boost causes you to die way too quickly, consider using the shortstop, since it will allow you to take full advantage of the mini-crit boost from a safer distance in comparison to the other scatterguns. The mini-crit boost can also help you build up your meter for the Soda Popper and the Babyface's Blaster respectively. However, the damage vulnerability from being marked for death after using the Cola's shots means you'll likely struggle staying alive long enough to actually see those meters get to full. The only primary I advise against is the backscatter, since it grants guaranteed mini-crits if you're behind the target, making the Crita-A-Cola a bit redundant if you're playing into this weapon's strengths. However, the true challenge with the Crita-A-Cola, much like the Caber, is staying alive after the first kill. After all, not only are you marked for death after you land your first shot, opponents are encouraged to kill you for the Retire the Runner achievement. Because of these facts, I recommend thinking of yourself as a glass cannon among glass cannons. This weapon is not banned from competitive because it's great at getting kill streaks. It's banned from competitive because it lets you suicide bomb the medic with great consistency. So if you're going for a kill streak with the Crita-A-Cola, make sure your other weapon slots can actually help you sustain your kill streak by keeping you alive. The Fan of War and Sandman are horrible picks because of this, since they offer nothing of value when using the Crita-A-Cola. The Sandman is terrible with the Crita-A-Cola because it reduces your maximum health, something with the Crita-A-Cola you can't afford to have, even if the ball was still useful in any capacity. The Fan of War is a bad option because it functions as a single target alternative from the Cola that your teammates can benefit from, which, benefiting your teammates, is not benefiting your killstreak, so we don't care. If you're playing medieval mode, I recommend the Fish or any of the stock reskins, since they have some of the best damage output of any of Scout's melee options, only surpassed by the Boston Basher, which has the chance of hitting yourself if you end up missing your shots or if lag decides that, hey, you didn't hit that guy. However, if you're not playing medieval mode, I recommend either the Atomizer, Rap Assassin, or Candy Cane depending on your playstyle preferences. The Atomizer is best for those of you who are good at dodging attacks, since it gives you a third jump, making you even more evasive than you would normally be with the other weapons. The Candy Cane is good for those of you who want to go full glass cannon with the Scout. After all, you get a guaranteed health kit if you can get the kill, meaning if you do take some damage from the mini crits from being marked from death by the Crita-A-Cola, you're still going to be able to heal it off quite quickly. The Rap Assassin, however, is the best melee weapon the Scout has to use alongside the Crita-A-Cola in my humble opinion. Not only does the Christmas bulb you can launch at players give you a ranged alternative for when players are outside of your scattergun's range, but the bleed it inflicts can actually help you build up the meters of the soda popper and the babyface's blaster. When playing with the cola, you need to be more aware of your surroundings than you normally be, since you can't afford to take damage as much as you would otherwise. If you hear a sentry around a corner, don't even bother peeking it, you're gonna die. Once you become marked for death for firing your first shot while under the mini crit buff, you've basically got the durability of a wet towel. As a result, I strongly advise against using the Crita-A-Cola on maps where you're forced into choke points, at least if you intend to go on a kill streak, which is a fancy way of saying, don't use this thing on Dust Bowl, you're gonna die real fast. However, I know a secret that can help sustain your kill streaks for a lot longer than you'd think. You ready for this? You don't always have to drink the cola. You heard me. You don't always have to drink the cola. After all, once you do any damage, regardless if the target in question died, or hell, even if you landed your shots or not, you're going to be marked for death. So don't do that unless you know you can get the kill with it. And when in doubt, don't. All in all, I give the Crita-A-Cola a SPY out of 10. The Crita-A-Cola is much like the SPY class as a whole. In a 1v1, everything's fair balance, you're probably going to lose more often than not. And in the hands of a new player who barely knows how to play the game, you're just going to get crushed no matter what. But in the hands of an experienced player, they can easily dominate an entire server if no one of comparable skill is on the enemy team. This means the cola is much more reliant on what the enemy team is doing in order to be effective, rather than what you and your team are doing. So while the cola can be fun, I don't see it becoming a mainstay in any scout main's arsenal anytime soon. That's all for now. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, comment what weapons you want to see me cover below. I've been Ian, and this has been my TF2 How to Killstreak guide to the Crita-A-Cola. And for those of you who want to have a say on what weapons I cover in the future, please remember I actually hold polls in my community tab to decide that exact thing. Speaking of which, the most recent one ended in a draw, so I will go with the one that people are actually commenting for a while now, the Pumpsin 6000. So for my longtime viewers who have been commenting on those polls for a while now to do the Pumpsin, this next video is for you.